So yeah, by the time the Xbox, the original one, launched in 2001, arcade racers were doing very well. I mean, you got games like Outrun, you got games like Pole Position, Crazy Taxi. I was born in 2000, so my gaming experience kind of, to anything from 2005 onwards. I've obviously gone back and played old games, but not that far back. So yeah, of course, the original Xbox and the PlayStation 2 era, that came about, and a ton, and I mean a ton, of great racing games, and a lot of them were arcade. So let's have a look at them. Midnight Club 2 was a great game. It had a lot of flaws, particularly how frustrating the gameplay actually was. I think Midnight Club 3 is still frustrating, but there's this addictive quality to losing, failing, hitting into a wall when there's like 1% of the race left. Overall, quality game. It actually rivaled Need for Speed in terms of customization options. And yeah, speaking of which, so EA decided, you know what, we're just gonna make Need for Speed every fucking year until 2014. And yeah, over time this meant Need for Speed kind of turned to dog shit. But there was a time between 2002 and 2006 where it was somehow working. Somehow EA were able to churn out game after game, and it worked. I think the best of this bunch, Most Wanted. A lot of people say Underground 2, I understand that. But the adrenaline rush and the police chases that were in Most Wanted, I mean, that sort of action is only kind of rivaled by Burnout. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, which is basically the entire audience, Burnout 3 Takedown is my favourite game. I mean, the gameplay is absolutely remarkable. It's so unorthodox, and it actually influenced a lot of future arcade racing games. I kind of also have to mention Burnout 2 Point of Impact. I never played it, but I think it laid a lot of foundations for 3, and it was the stepping stone to Burnout 3 and, that sort of perfection of the Burnout formula. So, kudos to number 2. Project Gotham Racing was a launch title for the original Xbox, and I mean, for a game to come out in 2001 and look that good, kind of raised a few eyebrows, and it played quite well too. The game had real locations, such as London, New York, Fur House. It also had real cars, so it had this great authenticity, yet arcade controls. It also had this kudos system, so effectively you would get rewarded for driving flamboyantly. So things such as drifting, or handbrake turning, or drifting. At the end of the race, your kudos would be weighed up with, winning the race or completing the lap in time. And there'd be situations where you wouldn't actually earn enough kudos to complete the event, even if you pass the actual event itself. So yeah, it was this great added layer of difficulty that just kind of changed up the gameplay. So Microsoft are obviously super happy with how PGR 1 and 2 worked, and they said, yeah, we'll take PGR 3 as a launch title, this time for the 360. Project Gotham Racing 3 added a route creator along with, you know, typical cars and tracks and game modes. Project Gotham Racing 4 came out in 2007, would actually remove the route creator, however would add bikes and dynamic weather. I mean, this game had fucking snow in the Nürburgring. So, someone from Eden Games obviously went on holidays to Oahu, which, by the way, is one of the Hawaiian Islands, and he must have came back and just said, hey, I went to Oahu, pretty dog-ass place, can we just put it in the game? Can we put Oahu in the game? And Eden Games were like, yeah, okay. And Test Drive Unlimited was created. Now, very bad controls. They seem to not know whether it was a simulation game or an arcade game, so they did both and it was neither, so good job. The map was surprisingly detailed for its size. It had about 1,000 miles worth of open road. But yeah, the game was very authentic. You could buy your own house. You could do up the interior of your car. I mean, this stuff is fucking revolutionary. There were car dealerships. I mean, that is such a fucking cool idea. Oh. Anyway, they made a sequel and it was kind of shit, so moving on. So remember Need for Speed, by the way, like, as these games, you know, are releasing, every year Need for Speed is like, hey, try this, hey, can have a look at this, and everyone's like, no, I don't want to, it's Need for Speed. And then finally one year they actually got it right with Hot Pursuit. So as I said, Criterion, they left Burnout. We'll get to that. They decided, well, we were making Burnout games and now we're making Need for Speed games. Can we do a bit of Burnout even though it's Need for Speed? And Hot Pursuit was made. So sometimes you're a racer racing. Sometimes you're a cop and you're trying to take down the racer. It's great offline. It's even better online. Really, really great game. And you thought to yourself, oh, is Need for Speed back? And so before they decided to make lots of cash making Need for Speed, Criterion left us with two Burnout games. Burnout Revenge. I mean, they added traffic checking, which effectively, if you hit into an oncoming car, you're crashed. If you hit into a car that's not oncoming, I'm sure there's a term for what I'm trying to explain. You literally Andre Pirlo that car wherever you want. What an innovation! Then Paradise came along and they made an open world, which has its positives and negatives. I'm sure online it was great. However, because it's this one map, one of the great things about Burnout 3 and Burnout Revenge is that it was this world tour. you got to race in America, you got to race in Europe and the Far East, and apparently that's all the world there is. I'm sorry South America, I'm sorry Africa, I'm really sorry Australia. Even though in Burnout 3 you would be doing tracks, they were always different, so it felt different, whereas in Burnout Paradise it's all on this same map, and you do feel this repetitive nature start to creep in, as well as that the tracks themselves aren't actually tracks. They give you a general direction of where the finish line is, and it's up to you to actually figure out where that is. So you genuinely spend, I'm going to say, about 30% of the race thinking, do I turn left or do I turn right? And sometimes you'll fuck it up and you'll James May it down the left and you'll lose.
Cock, gone the wrong way.
What are you doing, man? You idiot! You stupid, long-haired idiot!
So at this point in 2009, no one had really heard of Trials too much. I mean, it was on Java and it was on Flash. It was this kind of, not take it too seriously, kind of computer game. And then they decided to put it on the box. And yeah, launched on the 360 in 2009, Trials HD. And a follow-up, Trials Evolution, came out in 2012. And both of these games were really, really successful. Effectively, Trials is this 2.5D kind of platformer, but it's a racer. Sometimes you can race against your friends, other times you're just doing it on your own. When you're doing it on your own, there are leaderboards and ghosts, so you can compare yourself with your friends, and you're trying to effectively get past these. They're kind of puzzles, they're levels, there's obstacles, you have a bike, you have to traverse. I think you get the idea. This game is the elephant in the room. There is an argument to be made that Forza Horizon is an arcade game. I personally think it's a simulation racing game. If you think it's arcade, I can understand, right? I think there's arguments for both, but I'm counting it in a simulation, but I kind of feel obliged to include it. Basically, if you don't know, Forza Motorsport, the series, they had released 4 up until this point. They were doing really well. Playground Games came along, were like to Microsoft and turned to 10 Studios. Can we do what you're doing, but can we put it in Colorado? And everyone was like, cool. And so, all the cars, all the customization options, all the terrific controls and settings and everything you love about Forza, it's all in Colorado in this open world. And yeah, they decided to make 3 more, because why the fuck not? Forza Horizons 2, 3 and 4 absolutely dominated the racing genre. Not just arcade racing, I mean the fucking whole racing genre in this generation of console. Forza Horizon 2 was set in France and Italy, 3 was set in Australia, 4 was set in UK, and I'm still pissed they didn't do an Ireland expansion of some form. Please, Playground Games, please. I mean, the formula has kind of been exhausted at this point. The typical Horizon festival and showcases and doing events and whatnot, but it's so brilliant that even if they just did the exact same thing again for number 5, I would just be happy to put 200 hours into it, even though I kind of want something new at this stage. Yeah, Trials at this point were like, hey, let's make 2 more games, and let's make them for the Xbox One this time. First of all, Fusion, I mean, it was praised for its controls and level design. Overall, very good game. Rising came out, and yeah, it was just another faithful, solid installment for the series, and it's kind of hard to go wrong with these games. You know, they're not masterpieces. I'm not gonna rave about Trials. I'm never gonna shit on it though, because it's really, really good. Bugbear Entertainment, they kind of created this unique and chaotic entry into the racing genre. It's kind of like the Destruction Derby games from the past. You know, you got this really nice damage model and fluid handling, and there's all this destruction. That's pretty much how I can sum it up. Not a masterpiece, but I would highly recommend checking it out. Yeah, another exception to the title of this video. Fair play, Bugbear. And yeah, that's it. That's where we're at today. It is impossible to ignore the lack of great arcade racing games on this generation of console. So yeah, if you dismiss the Horizon series, Trials is the only franchise doing well at the moment. There is Wreckfest, but it is only one title. I'm gonna put a graph on screen just about now and see clearly how quality has diminished over the years. Yeah, when I was researching this video, I found this crazy stat that Trials Rising is the highest rated arcade racer on the Xbox One. It has a Metacritic score of 85. Very respectable score, okay. Let's say Trials Rising is an Xbox 360 game. Trials Rising would rank 9th, tied 9th for Xbox 360 games. I mean, over the years, franchises such as Project Gotham Racing, Midnight Club, Burnout, Test Drive Unlimited, they've all died completely. And I mean, if you're a kid growing up now, you have the choice between The Crew, which is mediocre, Need for Speed, which is a mediocre, and Forza Horizon. And it's kind of easy to see why the latter is so popular. There is zero competition. Now that we've seen how arcade racing has declined, we just want to have a quick look at, well, what's it going to look like in the future? Are there any games that are potentially being made? What's going on with the various companies? So let's have a look. First of all, Criterion Games, they are making the next Need for Speed game. We've seen what they can do when they're at their best. Definitely no Burnout game for a while. There's a company called Treefields Entertainment. They were founded by former Criterion members, and they made a game called Dangerous Driving, and the sequel to Dangerous Driving is coming out this year. The only problem is that Dangerous Driving was horrendous. Don't really have much faith in them. If they can pull it off, fantastic. Let's see what happens. Yeah, Project Gotham Racing, completely dead. Bizarre Creations, who are the company behind it, they were acquired by Activision in 2007. Then in 2010, they released Blur, which is a racing game. It didn't do too well. 6 months later, Activision were like, nah bro, I'm out, and they just dissolved the fucking company. Midnight Club is also dead. You've probably noticed recently, Rockstar have prioritized making a smaller number of games at a higher quality. Since 2013, they've released Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Series such as Midnight Club, Bully, they're all dead. Test Drive Unlimited is pretty much dead. Eden Games, the company behind it, they went into liquidation. They later resurfaced as a small indie developer. They're making mobile games and something called Gear Club Unlimited for the Nintendo Switch. I mean, no thank you. Trials, doing well. Red Link's the company behind it. They have 145 employees. You will expect them to be working on the next Trials game. You can expect to see at least one Trials game for the next generation of consoles. Forza Horizon is actually an interesting one because Playground Games, the company behind it, they are currently working on an open world RPG. As far as people are concerned, they aren't working on the next Forza Horizon game. It's kind of up in the air. We will see a Forza game this year, more than likely as a launch title for the what's the fucking new Xbox called? So it's called the Xbox Series X. What a stupid fucking name, Jesus. It's going to be a launch title for the Xbox 2. That'll probably be a Forza Motorsport, probably not Horizon. So no one really knows what's happening with Horizon because Playground Games are working on this RPG game. remains to be seen. Bugbear Entertainment, the makers of Wreckfest, they've got 21 employees and they kind of just released Wreckfest, so don't expect anything from them for a while. And unfortunately, that is the state of arcade racing today. The genre has declined, especially in the 2010s, especially in this generation of console. It's been pretty bad. Kids these days, they won't know what it's like to get a vertical takedown on Burnout. They won't know what it's like to, I don't know, spend 2 hours customizing their car on Need for Speed, or fucking nail a perfect combo on Project Gotham Racing. You know, all those series they're either dead or they're just not what they once were. And the genre itself just isn't what it once was. And you know, it being my favorite genre, it kind of makes me sad. I've gotten recently more into simulation racing games, especially the Formula 1 games. I've gone really into them, but you know, I missed that adrenaline and the excitement of a fun, casual arcade racer. You know, there hasn't been a game to scratch that itch for years, and I suppose it's up to the likes of Microsoft and Sony and EA to realize that this needs to be addressed, but see it as an opportunity, because there is a gap in the market here. And yeah, let's just hope that one of them can figure it out.